rant number 8. Rant number 8, we're just going to get into it. The first thing we're going to rant about is Jon Jones versus Stipe. So Jon Jones versus Stipe got announced on Friday at UFC 295 in November, and I'm hearing a lot of people, not only now that it's been announced, but ever since like Jones beat Gane, a lot of people are talking about the fact that Stipe is going to get absolutely mauled by Jon Jones. Do I think Jones wins this fight? Yes, it's Jon Jones. You cannot bet against him. But I don't know why, man. I don't think it's going to be as easy as you guys think. Let's talk about the grappling department first. Jon Jones pretty much immediately grappled with Ciryl Gane. Well, he had a little bit of striking, but pretty much just instantly grappled. And the reason it was so successful is because Ciryl Gane is the worst grappler in heavyweight top 10, or maybe even top 15. He's one of the worst grapplers in top 15 heavyweight, so it's pretty obviously why one of the best wrestlers in the UFC, in Jon Jones, did that to him. On top of that, Stipe Miocic is a wrestler. He out-wrestled Francis in the first fight. He is predominantly a wrestler. He's also got boxing, but I put him wrestler first. And I don't think Jon Jones is just going to be able to ragdoll him and submit him like he did with Ciryl Gane. On top of that, let's talk about the striking of it. We haven't seen Jones strike much. We saw him shadow box a little bit, and obviously we saw him for about 20, 30, 40 seconds with Ciryl Gane. He didn't look great. His shadow boxing looked really slow. He kind of reminded me of Nick Diaz versus Robbie Lawler too, the way he was throwing shots. I do think his striking's still effective, you know, his knees, his speed, his oblique kicks. I'm not saying he's a completely useless striker, but if Stipe, man, if he has to stand with Stipe, I'm not as confident in Jones. I think Stipe could catch on him. I know Stipe's been out for 2 years and he's old, and his last fight he got knocked out cold, but something's telling me that this is going to be closer than people think. I really do think it will. I think, like I said, I think Jones will win the fight, but I think for some reason Stipe is going to be able to catch him on the feet and maybe even defend Jones's takedowns or defend the grappling that Jones has. I don't think it's going to be an absolute mauling like people are saying. And I can understand why the fight's happened. People are having a go at Jones for taking a fight with Stipe. If you're the greatest of all time and you just want one last run, of course you're going to want to do it against the easier opponent in Stipe. Well, not even easy, just easier against Stipe. Against the heavyweight GOAT to segment your legacy. Of course you're going to do it there. You don't want to do it against Sergey Pavlovich, where he's a lesser known name. You know, he's got knockout power. He's a dangerous guy. You probably just want to go out on a high. So I can understand why Jones is taking this fight. But I can hear a lot of people saying that Stipe is going to absolutely get finished quicker than Gane. And I cannot see that happening. If that happens, I will delete my channel. But like I said, I think Jones will win the fight, but I think it'll be a lot closer than people think. I don't think it's going to be utter domination. On the topic of Jon Jones, my next rant is going to be about Jon Jones versus Tyson Fury. It's never going to happen. People are hearing way too much about this. Videos from the fighters, videos, you know, questions from media members, fans all over the place talking about Jon Jones versus Fury. When's it going to happen? What is it going to be? Boxing, octagon? What's it going to be? Let me just say this, it's never going to happen. It will not happen. Tyson Fury's not going to want to go in an MMA octagon with Jon Jones. He probably won't even want to box Jon Jones either. I can't see Jones wanting to box with Fury either. It's not going to happen. It will not happen. I don't know why people want to see it so badly. If Fury goes in the octagon with Jones, he'll get taken down and mauled. If Jones gets in the boxing ring with Fury, Fury will knock him out. It's not hard to fathom. I don't know why people are saying, you know, there's so much hype about this. Maybe if it was Francis versus Fury in a boxing match, that would make more sense. But Jon Jones versus Fury is just a useless argument. It's a pointless argument. I don't even know why it started. I think it was something to do with Joe Rogan, but it's completely useless. We're never going to see this fight. And even if we did, like I said, if it's in an octagon, Jon Jones wins easily. If it's in a boxing ring, Tyson Fury wins easily. I don't know why there's so much talk about it. It just sounds like a bunch of hype to me. Just let Jon Jones fight Stipe and retire. Tyson Fury, I don't even know what Fury's doing with his career now. It's like we all want to see him versus Usyk. That never happened. A couple years ago, we wanted to see him versus Joshua. That never happened. He's just fought Derek Chisora in, like, when was it? November, October? I don't know. But he hasn't fought for a while. I'm not a fan of Fury, to be honest with you, but I don't know why he's calling out Jones as if he's ever going to fight Jones. I can guarantee even if Fury got offered Jones in a boxing ring, he still wouldn't do it. And even if he did, that doesn't make sense for boxing. You're the heavyweight champion of the world fighting a guy who's never boxed in his life. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. And then we've got John Jones. I know Dana White wants to make Jones versus Fury, but it just won't happen. Fury's not going to risk his entire legacy to get mauled in a couple of seconds. And then people are talking about, like, why don't they do like a cross promotion so they do boxing in an octagon with MMA gloves? Fury will still knock him out if it's boxing. As long as there's no kicks, no knees, no elbows, no takedowns or clinch submissions or anything, Fury will win. There's just so much hype about this. It's for no reason. Fury will never fight Jones. If it's in boxing, Fury wins. If it's in MMA, Jones wins. It's not hard to fathom. Let's just please stop talking about it. Let's talk about Fury in boxing or Jones in MMA. Let's stop colliding them together because it's not going to happen. People are only talking about it because they want some dopamine about the fact that it could happen. It's not going to happen. Give up. The final part of my rant is going to be between Dricus du Plessis and Israel Adesanya. So the entire build-up for this fight leading into the Whittaker and du Plessis fight was just African. Or who's African, who isn't? Is Israel Adesanya even African? Is Dricus du Plessis African? It's just a terrible way to build a fight up. They're two talented fighters, and there's so many other ways to build it up rather than just using African and who's African. Like, at the end of the day, the entire build-up of this fight is based on who's African and who isn't. Like, even in the post-octagon interview where Dricus du Plessis beat Whittaker and Adesanya goes in the cage, the best thing they could talk about was African. That's all they talked about. African. Oh, I'm African, you're not. Do a DNA test. Nothing about fighting. Nothing about, oh, I'm going to smash your face in. Nothing about, I'm going to beat you up. Absolutely nothing to do with fighting. All they were talking about was Africans and DNA tests. Like, are these guys even going to fight, or are they just going to go and do a DNA test together? Like, that's the entire build-up of the fight. I just think it's a really terrible thing to do. The entire build-up's just based on African. I wish they'd just talk about fighting more, or at least build it up in a different way. I don't mind it when the build-up's like more personal. Like with Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal, the reason that was such a good build-up was because they both hated each other and they had personal issues in the past. But this one's so weak. Like, oh, I'm African, you're not. Like, that's just the entire storyline. Nothing personal about it. Just Izzy saying Dricus isn't African and Dricus saying he's the only African in the UFC. It's just a weak storyline, to be honest with you. Yeah. There's so many other ways to promote that fight. We don't need to cling on to this entire African. I'm just bored of it now. It's been going on for months as well. It's been going on ever since Dricus beat Darren Till. That's the only thing we hear about now. African this, African that. We don't care. Just come on, get a new storyline in. Especially Adesanya in that Octagon interview. He looked like he was on like crack in that post-Octagon interview. The way he was talking. Yeah, man. I'm really bored of that. I'm really bored of that, you know, whole narrative of who's African and stuff like that. No one cares. We just want to see them fight. Same way that they do in the BMF belt. You can still sell a fight without having to put the African thing in. Like, it's a nice little thing on the side. It's like a nice couple of one-liners at a press conference. But for the entire basis of the fight to be based on that is just terrible. Like, there's so many other ways to promote that fight, but apparently not. Apparently just sticking. In a way, I'm kind of glad that it's happened because it's created beef between them both and drama. But out of all the ways they could have created drama and beef, talking about nationality and race and stuff is just like the worst part of it. Like, yeah. That's my rant. I just wish that the African thing, I think it's just a really weak way to promote a pay-per-view, but yeah, that's my rant done.